Hey guys, Oscar and Suni here with another episode of Parenting on Mission. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about parenting is a process. Have you guys ever thought about that? That your parenting is actually a process. But before we get into all of that and dive into this very exciting topic, Suni, are you going to give us a little recap of the Parenting Masterclass?
Absolutely.
All right.
Hello, everybody. So we conducted 2 parenting masterclasses at the Pool of Life Community Church, and one was held August the 29th through August the 30th, and then at Champions Forest Baptist Church, we started that class August the 27th, and we concluded the class just about 2 to 3 weeks ago on October the 22nd. We touched 40 parents.
That's a lot of parents.
Approximately about 40 parents. Yeah, it was a lot of people.
Not approximately, it was 40.
Oh, exactly, 40 parents. So based on the surveys, the top 10 parenting challenges, because we asked the parents during the masterclass to give us some feedback about some challenges they may have been experiencing, and some things that we could further discuss in Parenting on Mission and during our videos with you guys every other week or once a month or so whenever we come on again. But the challenges were tools to solve problems was one, parenting blended families, which is really huge, parenting teenagers, yelling less for more effective communication, parenting during a divorce, how to discipline children, building relationships with your children, the role of grandparents, huge role, and parenting different generations. You have Generation X, Millennials, Generation Z, Alpha, Beta, Delta, and all Epsilon, and all the other Greek alphabets. So we will touch on all these topics and more in future videos. So stay tuned and please make sure you continue to follow us.
So guys, have you ever looked at your child and see their behavior, and then you just man, where'd they get that from?
They daddy.
Yeah, I always say they got it from son. You get it from your mom. But it's really an output of what we're putting into our children, and so we really need to understand that our parenting is a process, and not only our parenting, literally everything that we do in life is a process. Have you guys ever thought about that? Just think about when you put you going somewhere and you put a certain address in your GPS on your phone. Now, if you put the right address in, the output will be that you will get to the correct destination. But how many of you have ever kind of fat fingered and put the wrong number in, the wrong address? I ain't gonna talk about nobody, but and we sometimes end up at the wrong location.
A little shade today.
Just a little shade.
Just a little shade.
But if you put that wrong address in, you're going to show up at the wrong location. So you're going to get the wrong output. And so parenting is no different, guys. We need to understand that everything that we're doing in regards to our parenting of our children is a process. And a process is made up of 2 components. You have the input to the process, and then you have the output of the process, right? And either way, you have a process. Sometimes you don't even think you have a process, but you have one. We all have one. So for example, another example, let's say we wanted to lose weight, right? That's a lot of things that's a common thing that a lot of people can relate to, right? It could be gaining weight, it could be losing weight, it could be gaining muscle, losing muscles, a lot of different things when it comes to weight. So it's not just talking about one aspect of it. But the first thing that we have to consider is what is causing us to be at our current weight, right? Is it our diet? Is it our exercise? Or Do we need to eat more protein, for example? All of these types of things. So to achieve our desired goal, we have to figure out on the input side, what do we need to change to get the desired output, right? That makes sense.
It makes a perfectly good sense. But I think as parents, we have, when you're thinking about parenting and it being a process, we have to remember too, just about intentionality and realizing that we're always establishing a process. Right? We're always, because the process is just a systematic way of doing things, how we do things basically in our homes or wherever we are. And so if it's a systematic way of doing things, as parents, oftentimes we don't realize that we have a system in place. A system how to do things. And unbeknownst to us, we keep establishing or reinforcing the system. But what oftentimes, like you just stated, right? We're talking about an output. If I am not, or the output is not desirable, if I am gaining weight instead of losing weight, then I need to go back and do what? Check my process.
Check your input.
Check my input, but the process I've established. So realize, first of all, I think for parents, for us to realize as parents, we have a process in place. We have some inputs and outputs that we're already having in place. And so that's basically what we're talking about with our parenting process today.
Well, some examples of kind of the parenting inputs and output. So the first example of a parenting output is your actual children. Your children are an output, or is, if you have one, is an output of your input. Meaning you and some other person, right? We ain't got to get into all the details.
Please not.
But the output was the child, our children, right? So that's the first example. So let's just, and guess what? See, a lot of people, they have issues with the output, but they need to even go back and looking at the input of who you're having a child with. Right? Because like parenting starts with who you choose to have children with. And if you continue to have the same output, you may want to go all the way back to the input and kind of, okay, who am I choosing to have children with? What are the characteristics?
But I think sometimes what ends up happening once you've already had the output, your children here, and maybe you didn't realize, right? Because that happens. So you don't realize that, oh, this is a concern with this person, right? But I think the thing also is to, if that happens, if I become aware of something, then how do I go back and I don't have to wait till my child is 15 to show me these behaviors that we know are not desirable for this child. I start putting things in place in advance beforehand, before we get to it being a problem, to say, okay, let's input something different. Let's counter this behavior that may be a product of the parent or the family of origin. And so I think oftentimes too, that's what you have to really think about it. Okay, if this is output I'm seeing with mama or daddy, then even for ourselves, we've had to be intentional. Like these are some characteristic traits that we don't want to be in our children to have these same traits. So we start putting things in place. Now, I wasn't a big studier. That was me. So what did I do? I started ensuring that we had the environment that was conducive to our children having the discipline to study. I didn't wait till they were 16 and 15 because that's an issue for me.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that we can prevent a lot of things by being proactive. I'm a proponent of having more foresight, as opposed to hindsight.
For sure.
When we get children involved and other human beings, we don't have the luxury of saying, oh, I should have thought of that. No, we need to prepare ourselves and I would say act more responsibly and have more foresight and try to prevent things, right? If we determine that those things are undesirable, right? So another example is, let's say your child has a bad attitude. Or it could even be a good attitude. Right? Of course, we don't want to change the good attitude. So that means that we need to continue to feed the input to continue the good behavior. See, because these things are not just about weeding out bad things, it's also about sustaining good things.
That's true.
That's the good thing about this, what we're talking about, controlling inputs and outputs. If there's something desirable that I want to continue to see in my children, my job as a parent is to continue to make sure that they're getting fed as an input to continue those behaviors. If there are things that I want that I don't like and I see them as undesirable, then I need to still go back to that input and change that input if I can.
So nourish and groom what you want to bloom.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we want to pull out and take away, so we maybe have to repot it or replant something that we don't want.
Sure.
You know, I think that's the thing.
Right. Guys, you know, a lot of these inputs, we don't even really consider them, right? Like they're just in our atmosphere, in our environment, happening around us. And we don't realize that we're literally programming our children with these inputs. This could be us, our behaviors, the way we are interacting and talking to each other. If our kids see us getting aggressive, cursing, or, you know, not able to have a normal conversation with someone.
Not being organized. Self-disciplined, self-motivated.
All those things. Those are inputs to our children, right? I mean, if the music, like if we just think about it, like guys, I've literally been thinking about this a whole lot. Like there's music I don't even listen to anymore because I can't. Because I didn't realize in my earlier years that how that music was programming me specifically. And now if I'm listening to that same music in the car with my children, well, it doesn't even have to be the same music, but it could be similar music, you know, more current music going on. And really listen to those lyrics of what are the inputs, because it's the beat sounds good. Like that's how they get us, with the beat. That is the bait and switch tactic. That's what we call that, the bait and switch. Like we get you with the music, and then we feed you with all the other things going on, right? So we do need to be mindful of music, television, people that they're around on social media, or other children that you're letting them interact with.
Right.
These are all inputs, even family members. Do you have any other?
I think, you know, one of the things is with our parenting and how we can influence our parenting and our outputs is ensuring that we're focused on the output. Like, you know, was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right?
Yeah.
And he says you do things with the end in mind. And for us in parenting, in this parenting process, we are rearing our children, raising our children with the output in mind. What is it that I want to see? What is it the goal? What is it that we're wanting to accomplish? Where do our children want to be? And then we parent based on that. We make decisions based on the output, that desired output. I think what happens is sometimes we don't think about an output. So I would encourage all of us as parents, sometimes when the outputs are not desirable, to sit down and before we act, before we provide a consequence, before we, stop yelling, don't do that. Sit down in it and think about what is it that has been input. What do we put inside of our child or in this situation that we're getting this output?
Right.
Like really being thoughtful and mindful about that.
So how can we change the output of our parenting?
Change the inputs and sitting down and thinking about it.
Pretty simple.
Right. I think it's very simple. And remember, it doesn't happen overnight. Now, if we're already seeing some outputs that are less than desirable, that means that it's not going to change overnight, because sometimes I'm going to come home and I'm going to put a family chart up with our vision, our mission, and our expectations, right? And you come in, you gung-ho, and you ready to go. And then it doesn't work the first time.
Right.
The second time, The third time, no, because we've consistently already been doing these things and have established these things that are getting us this output. It takes time to reestablish, to reteach. You know, my favorite quote is, right? From Frederick Douglass.
What is that?
It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men.
Or women.
Or women. But it's easier to do it first than to go back and have to redo it.
Right.
And reteach it.
Yeah. So, guys, that is very important when it comes to this whole parenting process. One of the key things Suni said is you have a process, whether you think you have one or not. And if we don't like the output, don't focus on the output, go back to the input. That's where we need to make some adjustments. Sometimes small adjustments, guys. It doesn't always have to be major things unless it's a major undesirable output. You may have to go back and make some major changes on the input. But yeah, don't expect something to just change overnight because you make an adjustment and then you feel like, oh, well, what I did, it wasn't effective. Or my child didn't change. Well, our children are not robots. They're not artificial intelligence.
Tweaked.
It's just not going to change overnight. But if you are consistent and persistent and disciplined on changing the input, adjusting the input, at some point, the output is going to change. It's guaranteed to change. It's just how it works. I've seen this work a whole lot, guys. So trust us, it does work. You just have to be consistent about it. Suni, do you have any parenting point for us this week?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And so let's think about this, everybody. Even you, Oscar.
Yeah.
You're making a nice pitcher of lemonade. You're having this great party, and you're making this lemonade, right?
Yeah.
And all you need is some lemon, some sugar, some water, and if you're real fancy, a little ginger ale or Sprite, right? You put a little tang on it.
All
right. As you're making it, and you don't have a recipe, you're pouring all the ingredients together, and you have a desired outcome, a desired taste that we're looking for.
Right.
And then you're tweaking. You may add more water, more sugar. Think about that when you're on your parenting journey. It takes time. It takes evaluation. It takes consistency. It takes love. It takes communication. And oftentimes we focus on the output. Focus on and be encouraged to focus on what we're putting in our children. Be consistent with it. And if we're always doing it consistently and within love, then as Oscar stated, we're going to see the changes we're looking for.
All right, guys. So we do thank you for watching this episode. We ask that you subscribe, like, and share. Leave a comment about your parenting process. What are some of the inputs that you're working on changing right now? Notice I didn't say outputs. What are some of the inputs that you're working on changing? Let us know. Hey, make sure to hit the notification button so that you're notified every time we drop new content. Oscar and Suni here with Parenting on Mission. Parenting is a lot easier when it's done on mission. Talk to you later. Bye-bye now.
Bye.